The human said, "Let's have kids." Her laughter hid something deeper. The crimson warning lights bathed Marcus Chen's face in hellish red as his cargo hauler Stardancer plummeted toward the violet surface of Nexus Prime. His hands flew across the dying controls, sweat beading despite the cabin's dropping temperature. "Come on, girl," he muttered, coaxing life from failing engines. "Just hold together a little longer." The ship struck atmosphere like a meteor, gravitational forces slamming Marcus against his harness. Through the viewport, alien terrain rushed. Up to meet him, jagged crystalline formations, forests of silver-leaf trees, and vast stretches of pearl-white sand. Stardancer carved a smoking trench across the desert before grinding to a halt against towering spires. Marcus hung suspended in his seat, ears ringing, tasting copper. His right shoulder throbbed where shrapnel had torn through during the crash. But he was breathing. That victory lasted exactly 43 seconds. Heavy footsteps crunched across sand outside. Marcus fumbled for his plasma pistol as shadows fell across his shattered cockpit. The emergency hatch exploded inward with a shriek of tortured metal. What stepped through defied every first contact protocol Marcus had studied. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her body sculpted lean muscle wrapped in form-fitting armor that seemed grown rather than forged. Her skin held a subtle lavender hue, marked with intricate gold patterns that looked like ritualistic scarification. Humanoid enough to be familiar, alien enough to be terrifying. But her face stopped his breath. Sharp cheekbones framed features undeniably feminine despite their predatory edge. Her eyes burned silver-white, pupils contracted to vertical slits. Platinum hair fell in a warrior's knot, revealing pointed ears that twitched as she assessed the wreckage. "Human," she said, voice carrying absolute authority. Her accent made the words sound like both curiosity and condemnation. Marcus tried to look non-threatening while hanging upside down and bleeding. "That's me, Marcus Chen, independent trader. And you would be?" "Commander Liralai of the 7th Fleet, Valdorian Defense Corps." She drew a weapon that hummed with lethal energy. "You will accompany me. Look, I know this seems suspicious, but it's just mechanical failure. No hostile intent here." Silence. The weapon's hum intensified. "Your species has been classified as potential security risks. You require interrogation." Marcus's mind raced. The Valdorians were legendary, a warrior culture spanning 4-star systems, their military precision matched only by their emotional restraint. They treated feelings as tactical weaknesses to be eliminated. Could I at least get right side up? Blood's rushing to my head. Something flickered across Liralay's features. Amusement, perhaps. She holstered her weapon, and with casual strength that made Marcus's pulse quicken, tore away the twisted metal pinning him. Her hands were surprisingly gentle, helping him down, though her touch remained clinical. "You are injured," she observed, noting his shoulder wound. "Nothing fatal, though I'd prefer not bleeding out during interrogation." Liralai produced a small device and ran it over his wound. Pain vanished as alien technology sealed the cut, leaving only a thin, silver line. "Thank you," Marcus said, genuinely surprised. "I require you conscious for questioning." Her tone stayed flat, but Marcus caught something underneath. Curiosity, maybe. "Your vessel's design is unfamiliar." "Custom job. Bought her from a Centauri shipwright, made modifications." Marcus gestured at the wreckage. "Though had is more accurate now. Come." Liralai turned toward a sleek military transport, promising zero comfort and maximum efficiency. "Resistance will result in termination." As they walked across alien sand, Marcus stole glances at his captor. Despite her threats, something about Liralai intrigued him. Maybe it was how she'd helped rather than dragged him from wreckage, or how her eyes kept checking his condition. "Do you always patch up prisoners before interrogating them?" "I preserve assets for optimal functionality," but her ears twitched slightly, betraying some internal reaction. Marcus smiled despite everything. This was going to be interesting. The Veldorian detention complex carved into Mount Astara resembled a fortress more than a prison. Lorelei led Marcus through corridors lined with weapons and trophies from conquered worlds, her boots clicking against polished stone. Guards in identical armor snapped to attention as she passed, their eyes never lingering on the human prisoner. "Impressive architecture," Marcus commented, studying vaulted ceilings. "Very imposing. Do you get cable TV?" "Cable television?" Lorelei's stride didn't falter, but her head tilted slightly. "Never mind. Human humor. Humor serves no tactical purpose. Maybe not, but it makes the terrifying parts more bearable." They reached a stark chamber furnished with only a metal table and chairs. Marcus expected restraints, torture devices, standard interrogation accessories. Instead, Lorelei gestured for him to sit and activated a recording device. "State your designation, origin, and purpose in Valdorian space." Marcus Chen, born New Shanghai Colony, currently unemployed thanks to recent spacecraft destruction. He leaned back casually. "As for purpose, honestly, just passing through. Heard there might be salvage contracts in the Outer Rim." "You are a scavenger. Prefer independent acquisition specialist, but sure." For the next hour, Lorelei probed his background with military precision. Marcus answered truthfully mostly. He'd been freelancing for 4 years, taking odd jobs, avoiding core worlds where too many people asked uncomfortable questions about his past. Nothing threatening, nothing that should interest the Valdorian Empire. "Your ship's modifications," Lorelei consulted her notes. "Weapon systems were military-grade. Outer Rims dangerous. Pirates, raiders, things with too many tentacles." Marcus shrugged. "A guy's got to protect himself." "You have combat experience." "Some." Marcus's easy manner tightened almost imperceptibly. "Nothing formal." Before Lorelei could press further, alarms shrieked throughout the facility. Red lights bathed the chamber as her communication device crackled. "Commander, we're under attack! Krillian slavers, full assault formation!" Lorelei was instantly on her feet, hand moving to her weapon. "How many?" 40 ships, maybe more. They're targeting detention levels." Marcus watched her face transform. From interrogator to warrior, calculation replacing curiosity. "The Krillians want you," she said, silver eyes boring into his. "What?" "I've never heard of them. They are flesh traders. Your species commands premium prices in their markets." Lorelei's jaw tightened. "This facility is compromised." The building shuddered as explosions echoed above. Dust rained from ceilings while emergency lighting cast dancing shadows. "So what's the plan?" Marcus asked, surprised by his own calm. "You remain here. I will coordinate defense." "Like hell." Marcus stood, matching her intensity. "I may be your prisoner, but I'm not sitting here waiting for alien slavers. I can help. Humans are weak, emotional, untrained. Try me." Another explosion, closer now. Lorelei's communicator screamed with status reports. Breached perimeters, fallen guards, enemies closing on their position. Her training warred with pragmatism until pragmatism won. "Stay behind me. Do exactly as I command. If you become liability, I abandon you." "Fair enough." Lorelei moved through the facility like liquid death, her weapon cutting down Krillian raiders. With surgical precision, Marcus followed, staying low, using his smaller size advantageously. When they reached an intersection, he caught movement peripherally, a raider flanking them, weapon raised. "Left!" he shouted, tackling Lorelei as energy beams seared where she'd stood. She rolled, came up firing, eliminated the threat smoothly. For a moment they lay tangled on the floor, her weight pressing him down, her breath warm against his ear. "You," she began, then seemed to remember herself. Acceptable reflexes. They fought toward the armory, where Lorelei tossed Marcus a plasma rifle. "Can you operate this?" "Point and shoot, right? Crude, but effective." The next 20 minutes blurred together. Marcus discovered good combat instincts, covering Lyralay's blind spots while she carved through enemy forces. They moved like partners, rather than strangers, anticipating each other's actions with uncanny precision. When the last raider fell, they stood back to back in the smoking corridor, weapons ready, hearts pounding. "Well," Marcus said, slumping against a wall, "that was educational." 3 days after the raid, Marcus found himself in the strangest prison arrangement in galactic history. Instead of a cell, he occupied guest quarters rivaling luxury hotels. Instead of guards, he had Lyralay's personal attention as she continued. His interrogation, through long walks around the facility and conversations straying far from military intelligence. "Your species intrigues me," she admitted during one of their talks, watching him attempt Valdorian field rations without grimacing. "Humans seem to derive satisfaction from illogical circumstances. It's called optimism. You should try it. Optimism serves no tactical purpose. Neither does living, if you think about it that way." Marcus set down his utensil, meeting her gaze. "When's the last time you did something just because it made you happy?" Lyralay's brow furrowed. "Happiness is irrelevant. Achievement, victory, honor, these have meaning. But do they make you smile? Smiling indicates weakness to enemies. What if there are no enemies around?" She had no answer for that. Their philosophical debates were interrupted by crisis. Long-range sensors detected a massive Krillian fleet massing at the system's edge. Not raiders this time, but a full invasion force. Mount Astara's defenses were formidable, but not insurmountable. Against such numbers, evacuation protocols are active, Lyralay announced, her manner crisp and professional. "Transport ships depart in 6 hours. "What about you?" Marcus asked, noting she hadn't mentioned her own plans. "I remain with the garrison. Someone must coordinate final defense. That's suicide. It is duty." Marcus stared at her, seeing past the warrior facade to something vulnerable underneath. "There's got to be another way." Valdorians do not retreat from inferior species, even when retreating would save lives. Especially then. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He found Lyralay on the facility's observation deck, staring at stars where enemy ships gathered like storm clouds. She'd removed her armor, wearing only a simple black uniform, revealing the graceful lines of her form. "Second thoughts?" he asked, joining her at the transparent barrier. "Valdorians do not experience doubt." "Right. My mistake." Marcus studied her profile, sharp cheekbones, the way starlight caught in her silver eyes, gold patterns tracing along her neck. "Can I ask something?" "You may inquire." "Do you ever get lonely?" The question hung between them like a challenge. Lyralay's hands tightened on the barrier's edge, knuckles white against lavender skin. "Loneliness is human weakness. Is it? Or is it just recognizing you're not connected to anyone?" She turned to face him fully, and Marcus saw something crack in her composure. "Why do you ask such questions?" "Because I've been lonely for years, and I recognize it in others. Even 7-foot alien warriors. I am not your people, Lyralay. Different from humans, sure, but still people with feelings and fears and hopes. I have no fears. Everyone has fears. What do you fear?" The simple question hit her like a physical blow. Lyralay looked away at the gathering fleet, considering her answer. "Dying meaninglessly," she said finally, "living without purpose, being forgotten." "You won't be forgotten." Something in his voice made her look back. Lyralay was studying him with intensity that made his pulse quicken. Her pupils dilated despite bright starlight. "You should evacuate with the others," she said quietly. "Should I?" "Yes." "What if I don't want to?" She moved closer, close enough that he could see the rapid pulse at her throat, smell her unique scent, something like ozone and exotic flowers. "Then you are foolish." "Probably." The moment stretched between them, loaded with possibilities neither dared voice. Then alarms began wailing again, shattering the fragile intimacy. Fleet movement detected, the facility's AI announced. Enemy, ships approaching in attack formation. Lyrelei was instantly back in command mode, but Marcus caught her hand before she could turn away. "After this is over," he said, words tumbling out. "After we somehow survive, do you want to try something?" "Crazy, such as?" Marcus's heart hammered. "Stay with me." Part 4, The Proposal and Battle, 600 words. "Stay with me," Marcus repeated, his voice gaining strength. "Leave the military. Leave all this duty and honor and emotional suppression. We could explore the galaxy together, find somewhere quiet. Maybe," he took a shaky breath, "maybe start a family." The effect on Lyrelei was immediate and extraordinary. Her eyes went wide, her mouth fell open, and then, to Marcus's complete shock, she began to laugh. Not a chuckle or polite amusement, but deep, helpless laughter that shook her entire frame. She doubled over, gasping for breath, her usual composure completely shattered. "You," she managed between fits of laughter, "you want to, with me?" Another wave of hilarity overtook her. Marcus felt his face burning with embarrassment. "Okay, I get it. Stupid human, crazy idea. No." Lyrelei straightened, wiping tears from her eyes, laughter subsiding into occasional chuckles. "Not stupid. Impossible, perhaps. Inadvisable, certainly, but not stupid." "So that's a no." She looked at him for a long moment, her expression cycling through emotions he couldn't name. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he'd ever heard it. "Ask me again when we survive this." The battle for Mount Astara lasted 18 hours and changed everything. Marcus fought beside Lyrelei as Krillian forces hammered their defenses. Wave after wave of slavers sought to claim the facility's prisoners. What began as desperate last stand became something else when Marcus's tactical suggestions, unconventional by Valdorian standards, proved devastatingly effective against enemy formations. "Your species thinks differently," Lyrelei observed during a brief lull, watching Marcus coordinate flanking maneuvers that confused and scattered Krillian assault teams. "Chaotically, but effectively." "We prefer creatively," Marcus replied, ducking as plasma fire seared overhead. "Rules are more like guidelines anyway." By the time reinforcements arrived, Lyrelei's distress signals having finally reached the Imperial fleet, the immediate threat was neutralized. Marcus had somehow become an unofficial military advisor, his insights helping turn certain defeat into unlikely victory, but victory brought complications. "The Council wishes to meet this human," announced Admiral Corvin, Lyrelei's superior and a walking monument to Valdorian martial tradition. His scarred face regarded Marcus with undisguised suspicion. His irregular methods require evaluation. Marcus found himself in the imperial capital of Nethys, a breathtaking metropolis of crystal spires and floating platforms defying several laws of physics. The ruling council, 12 ancient Valdorians whose collective age spanned millennia, studied him like a fascinating but dangerous specimen. "You propose alliance with this creature?" Council leader Zephon asked Lyrelei, his voice carrying absolute authority. "I propose utilizing his strategic capabilities," Lyrelei replied carefully. "His insights proved valuable against the Krillians. His emotional contamination of our forces is concerning." Marcus noticed how Lyrelei stiffened at emotional contamination. Several junior officers had indeed begun displaying behaviors their superiors found troubling, joking during briefings, showing concern for wounded comrades, questioning unnecessarily harsh orders. "The human's influence spreads like disease," another council member observed. "Reports indicate decreased efficiency in units exposed to his presence." "Decreased efficiency or increased initiative," Marcus interjected, earning sharp looks. "Your soldiers are starting to think for themselves instead of just following orders." "That's not weakness, that's evolution," The chamber fell silent. Several members reached for weapons. You dare suggest our millennia of tradition require evolution? Zephon's tone could freeze stars. I'm suggesting that maybe feeling something doesn't automatically make you weak, Marcus replied, walking a razor's edge. Some of the strongest people I know care most deeply. His eyes found Lyralise across the chamber. She stood rigid at attention, but he caught the slight tremor in her hands, her quickened breathing. Commander Lyralise, Zephon commanded, escort this human to secure quarters. Tomorrow we decide his fate. Later, in the luxurious prison that was his assigned room, Marcus paced while Lyralise stood guard. The tension between them had grown unbearable. Since his proposal complicated by growing attraction neither could ignore. You should not have challenged the council, she said finally. Someone had to. They could order your execution. Would you carry it out? The question hung like a blade. Lyralise's jaw worked silently, her internal conflict visible in every line of her body. It would be my duty. That's not what I asked. She turned away, staring at city lights. I have served the Empire my entire life. Since childhood, I was trained to purge weakness, to value duty above all else. Emotion is the enemy of efficiency. And now? Now, her voice barely above a whisper, now I find myself questioning everything I was taught. Marcus moved closer, close enough to see gold patterns along her neck, hear her rapid heartbeat. What do you question? Whether strength means standing alone? Whether caring for someone makes me weak? Or, she faced him, silver eyes bright with unshed tears. Or whether it makes me more than I was before? Lyralise, I dream of you, she admitted, words torn from somewhere deep inside. I dream of leaving this place, finding somewhere we could simply be together. And when I wake, I tell myself such dreams are foolishness. Marcus reached for her hand, marveling at how perfectly her fingers fit between his, despite their different origins. Maybe they're not dreams. Maybe they're possibilities. She pulled away, rebuilding walls with visible effort. I am Valdorian. You are human. Our species are incompatible in every way that matters. Are we? Before she could answer, Marcus closed the distance between them. His hands framed her face, thumbs tracing gold patterns on her cheekbones, and kissed her. For a moment, Lyralise stood frozen. Then, with a sound half sob and half surrender, she kissed him back. Her arms wrapped around him, pulling him closer. Her strength evident even in gentleness. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. This changes nothing, she whispered against his lips. Doesn't it? Tomorrow the council will decide. If they order your death, then tonight is all we have. Lyralise searched his eyes, seeing something there that finally shattered her resolve. Without another word, she activated the room's privacy shields and stepped into his arms. What followed was revelation for both, discovery that physical compatibility was the least of their concerns. Marcus learned that beneath Lyralise's warrior exterior lay a woman starved for tenderness, for connection, for simple joy of being touched without violence. Lyralise discovered that surrender could be its own strength, that vulnerability shared was vulnerability doubled rather than halved. They made love with desperate urgency, as if they could merge their incompatible worlds through joining of their bodies. When exhaustion claimed them, they lay entwined, Marcus's dark skin contrasting with Lyralise's lavender pallor. I love you, he whispered into her hair. Love is illogical, she replied, but her arms tightened around him. The best things usually are. The council's decision came at dawn. Exile for both. You have corrupted one of our finest commanders, Zephon declared, his ancient face carved from disapproval. Commander Lyralise, your emotional compromise makes you unfit for command. You will be stripped of rank and banished from Valdorian space. And the human, another member asked, also exiled. Let them find what comfort they can in each other's weakness. What the council intended as punishment, Marcus and Lyrale received. As unexpected gift, within hours, they were aboard a small transport heading for the neutral zone between civilized space and unexplored frontier. "Do you regret it?" Marcus asked as they watched Valdorian space shrink behind them. Lyrale considered. Seriously, she'd lost everything, rank, position, the only life she'd known. Her military career, built over decades, was ended. Her people now viewed her as contaminated, weak. "No," she said finally. "For the first time in my life I chose something for myself, rather than accepting what others chose for me." They found sanctuary on Haven's Rest, a terraformed world where various species coexisted peacefully. Their cottage sat beside a crystal lake, surrounded by trees that chimed like bells in the wind. A year later, as they watched twin suns set over alien mountains, Lyrale made an announcement. "I have been researching the medical possibilities," she said carefully. "While our species cannot reproduce naturally, there are alternatives." Marcus's breath caught. "Are you saying—" "I am saying yes, Marcus Chen. Yes to everything." Their laughter echoed across the lake, a sound of pure joy that would have horrified the Valdorian Council and made Marcus's heart soar. Love, it seemed, really could conquer all. The end.